So it looks like Mr. Maston with our Public Works Department.
Hey, good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to present our additional funding requests for 2024. As my slides come up here, what you'll see as I go through the slides today, our primary emphasis this year is for additional funding is on MS4 compliance, and you'll see that as I go through my briefing, in addition to the funds that we're requesting for additional road work. Our strategic plan goals, you can see here from our objectives, the infrastructure, we've got 5 major areas: roadway, stormwater, facility, fleet, and park. Our primary emphasis is obviously roadway, stormwater, and fleet. But we are involved in facility and parks as well, working with facilities on the improvements for all of our facilities, our outlying yards, as well as working with parks as needed when engineering requirements, when they need engineering support. As we look through this, implement a life cycle management strategy. There's a few things that we'll be briefing you on here in the next few weeks before the end of the year on the things that we are implementing for 2024. And a lot of it has to do with asset management, everything from our vehicles, knowing every nut and bolt that's on a vehicle, every ounce of fluid, to include every single asset that we have in the county, to include every road sign, every bridge, every culvert, everything that we have, to have a more quantifiable information. So when we do come forward, it's not an emotionally based request, it's a factual based request. Very objective versus subjective. Our public facing asset scorecard, there's a few teams throughout the county right now that are doing the strategic planning, working on our strategic plan. The team that I am on with Stacy Quiddick, we are talking about a public facing information that talks about how we are doing as a county, but we're also doing it at the public works level as well to show people where we're at and how we're doing. And this ties into service quality and also community trust. That's the thing that there's a lot of emphasis that we're putting on right now. And I'll talk here in a moment too about the work that Jack Ladley is working on internally as far as our customer service, improving our customer service to our citizens. When we look at the analyzing the attrition rates, I may touch on this here in a little bit as well, but we've been working very closely with human resources, and I can tell you that they have been doing an extensive amount of work that has had significant changes for us in public works with career progression and also breaking down barriers that have been in place that prevented people from promoting and climbing through a career here in the county. So I want to give a shout out to Xavier Frost and his team and all the work that they've been doing for us, because without them, we wouldn't have been able to make this happen. Let's see our action plans. And again, that ties into the software and things that we'll brief you on as well. Community trust, again, here our objective 3, external and internal communication strategies, as well as resident satisfaction. Our external internal communications are something that we have to continually improve on, and that is reducing our response times as well as following up. And sometimes when we don't have an answer, calling somebody and telling them that we don't have an answer is giving somebody an answer. It's just a matter of keeping our citizens informed on what we're doing. The stoplight chart here, our operating indicators, the average age of fleet, our target is 6 years. Remember, that is going to be a target. To have an average life of our vehicles, and right now we're sitting at 8. And if you remember from a year or two ago, we were a few years above that. But the funding that we were able to receive of the last 2 years for vehicle replacements has helped us to bring that number down. But as far as our average age of fleet, we are not going to do fleet replacements just specifically off the age of the fleet. It's going to be based off of the information that we have now for asset management, knowing everything about every vehicle and knowing the true life cycle of that vehicle before we request replacement. We look for a 90% ready rate for all of our vehicles in the county, and we're currently sitting at 95%. The chip seal program, our target was 70 lane miles. We completed 70 lane miles. Now, we really want to put an emphasis on this with Tim Stickle, our new highway manager, and his team that did this. They were delayed 5 weeks as a result of the flooding, and they still got out there and got after it and got our chip sealing done for the year. Pavement overlay, I just lost my, there we go. Pavement overlay program, our target's 80 lane miles. We're sitting at 74.5, but based off the forecast, we should be fine at reaching our 80 miles before the end of the year. The roadway graveling program, our target was 30. We're sitting at 33 and we're not done. You can see that we did have requests in previous hearings for additional money for mag chloride and gravel, things like that. And that's so we can continue this while we have good weather to continue doing our roadway graveling program. Reclamation, you can see here they've been crushing it. Our target was 40 miles, or actually at 92 miles, and they're not done yet. They're still, as long as we got good weather, we're going to keep going, get as much done as we can. Now, here's the emphasis that I talked about before, our customer service surveys. Our target is to be 80% in the good or excellent category. We're setting at about 75%, and that has been a constant battle. I say not battle is the wrong word to use. It's been a constant issue for us to resolve, and that is being resolved. The CSRs, completing our citizen service requests within 90 days, our target is 70. We're currently sitting at 60. And right now, there's being a complete audit of every citizen request that is in our system. Again, Jack Ladley's leading this with Megan Daniel, our new customer service manager, and we're going through every single thing, line by line by line. And there's now actually going to be periodic meetings to sit down, not only internally, but also with Rebecca for the information that she's getting as well, and make sure we're comparing and make sure we're targeting things like we need to get our citizen service requests taken care of.
Mr. Maston, before
ma'am.
you move on from that previous slide, I just want to commend the progress that has been made. We have seen a lot of red lights on a similar slide in the past, and kudos to your team for really moving the needle and in a measurable way. It's very impressive. And the other thing I wanted to point out is, I think great progress has also been made on the customer service point, but we also have to keep in mind that our response to customer service is it's based on the people that have an issue and a complaint, and they're coming forward with an issue that they need fixed in the beginning. And so moving that needle on the way we measure the customer service survey that's also very impressive. So I know that you realize you've got another 5% that you'd like to get out of that, but also take huge kudos with that, because those are people that are self-reporting and they're starting from a complaint standpoint. And if you're able to make 75% of those satisfied by the time your crew is done, I think that's incredibly impressive. So don't beat yourself up too much on that 5%, but I look forward to seeing you reach your target.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I'll echo the comments of the chair. And I know you've got more charts here that have some interesting data, like I think chart 5, which talks about some of the wins, which are pretty awesome. You just haven't gotten to it yet, so I won't comment to those. But with regard to the the indicators and so forth, just a couple of comments, and maybe it's coming in a later chart, but I don't see anything about kind of how we're doing with bridges. Is that on one of the charts?
Yeah, it's specifically on bridges, it's not on there. That's because that's more kind of morphed into the overall. And this is we did not provide any information specifically to bridges.
Okay, and I know that it's not necessarily kind of a budget hearing and so forth, but I know that we need to continue working on that clarity with regard to the Forest Service roads over on the west side in my district, as to what the documentation really says about who has taken management responsibility. Another comment a couple other comments I have, I think our app, Citizen Connect, is fantastic, but my goodness, I mean, every time I run into a citizen that wants to talk about roads, I recommend to them using Citizen Connect, and they've never heard of it. So I just wonder if there's maybe something useful, and this maybe is broader than just roads or DPW, but if there's something we could do maybe next year to increase the awareness of it, because I just have a lot of citizens that still don't know about it. And then I do have a question about the average age of the fleet. So your goal is 6 years, your actual is 8 years, but we were well above that, a couple of years ago. So I do need to ask the question, for whatever it's worth, and maybe it's just my own personal philosophy. 8 years sounds like a great target. Between 6 and 8 years, I don't know. It just seems to me like I think a lot of vehicles now can easily last 8 years, even if they're heavily used. And we've made a ton of strides going from a double-digit age to a single-digit age. So I just have to ask the question, why does this target 6 years instead of 8 years?
The 6 years, when you look at, again, it's the average with all the vehicles that we have. If we're front-loaded with newer vehicles that are between new and 4 to 5 years, that's going to offset the vehicles that are sitting at 18 and 20 years. But as far as the question goes, as far as that specific number, again, it's just simply a target, but going forward, our vehicle usage and vehicle replacement will be based off of the information that we get from our asset management system that tells us the actual true life cycle of that vehicle. Just because a vehicle hits 6 years does not mean it's ready to go to the boneyard, nor does 12 years mean it is. We need to look at the vehicle, how much we're spending on it. When it gets to the point where the vehicle is costing more to own than it is to replace, that's when we'll start replacing vehicles. But this is, the specific number 6, I believe, is a GSA number that they put out there for average lives of vehicles, and that's why that's there. Again, it's simply a target, but it's not a make or break.
Okay. And I'll say, I know we haven't gotten to it yet, but since you mentioned it, I am just really excited about the asset management system because that's, you and I know, but I think many people here know, that's helping us really better manage the assets that we have, especially the road assets, the vehicle assets that we have. So, but I'll stand by and wait for you to actually get to that chart because I think it's the next chart.
All right, I'll get there. And Commissioner, if I can, just since we're on the topic, it's also that the new asset management is also going to allow us to look at vehicle usage. So if we have vehicles assigned to departments, but we look at the usage of that vehicle in that department, it's going to give us a much more objective way to look at distribution of vehicles and potentially reduce the requirement for the number of vehicles that we have simply based off of usage that the department's using. But I appreciate the interest in that because I can tell you Chris Reynolds, our fleet manager, is working extremely hard as well as all of his fleet technicians to bring this on board and make it as useful as possible.
Commissioner Geithner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So you've gotten a lot of feedback on this, but it is very positive to see. And I just want to commend you for being willing to put out numbers like this. It can be a little scary when you're setting goals and putting metrics in place, and that's part of goal setting and achievement, but it can be a scary thing to do to put those out there and not meet everyone the first time around. But I too think that these are tremendous numbers, and knowing that we're not stopping here. We're going to keep moving that forward. So really, really grateful for what we're seeing, that asset management system. I am so excited to see really, truly data-driven decisions. I know you came on board as the director pretty soon after I came here as well. So it's been really good to see the tremendous amount of progress that has happened in Public Works under your leadership. I do want to make a comment to Commissioner Vanderwerf's point on the Citizen Connect and how many of our citizens still do not know the best way to communicate problems, and the tracking system, which we've obviously implemented outside of, working in conjunction with Public Works, but with our new constituent services person, and really trying to track and make sure citizens are kept in the loop along the way. We still have, I think, some work to do there, but we are making huge strides compared to, I think where we were a couple of years ago. But I agree that Citizen Connect, and that's probably something to talk about a little bit with our communications department as well, is how do we continue to get that information out to our citizens? Because I agree, it is truly, there are a lot of people who do not know the best way to reach out. And of course, they can also do that through our website, so they don't have to download the Citizen Connect app. But I think that's a good thing for us to continue to talk about. But truly impressed with where we are going, the data that is actually going to be helping us make decisions, and being truly able to assess those, return on investments. When we are investing in a software or different technology, how that is helping us to become more efficient. So thank you for your work.
Thank you.
We're going to have Citizen Connect business cards. I had 50 road issues, and I was looking at my statistics in my commissioner district just last month. We had 50 road issues. So I think many of my citizens are finding it, or else they're calling and ending up, but we'll have to have business cards. We'll have to put that on the back of our business card.
I will take the business cards. We are in the process of producing business cards that have our customer service manager's information on it, and then Citizen Connect information on the back of that card. Because very often our highway folks, when they're out in the field, people will stop and talk to them, and now they will be equipped to be able to hand the cards out when they see people in public, and we'll all be carrying them. We're trying to funnel people through Megan Daniel, our customer service manager. She's doing great, and she's got a lot of great ideas. She's working very, very close with Rebecca, and I think between the two of them, we're going to crack this and do a lot better at it.
Excellent. Thank you for your patience.
Oh, sure.
Sorry to slow you down.
No, that's okay. I appreciate it.
All of it worth saying.
Appreciate the questions. Some of our other ones here, we talked to you about the asset management, work management program with common data architecture, the common data architecture so that things can talk to each other. And I want to talk about this as well here. Again, you know, they're trying to run Department of Public Works like a profit and loss company. Are we making money? Are we not making money? That's what we need to know. And that's what this is going to allow us to do. Are we efficient with our time? If we have people working on a project, if it's a 5-hour project, but it took 10 hours to complete, using the software that we're going to use to track things, why is that? Is it training? Is it because we didn't have enough people, or is it someone that just took too long on a project? We're actually going to be able to start looking at this and increasing our efficiencies all across the board. Very happy with the flood response. Reopened 40 road and bridge closures within 30 days. And again, I want to shout out to Jack Ladley and the rest of the team. He's been working very closely with procurement as well, with Tracy and Becky over at procurement. We will get our FEMA money on this. I feel very, very confident we'll get reimbursed for this. And also on the flood response as well, El Paso County pretty much carried the state as far as our qualification for FEMA for the state of Colorado. Workforce development, we talked about career progression classifications. Just to give you a background on this, the way it used to be, you started as a maintenance worker 1, you could not become a maintenance worker 2 unless a position was vacated. And then you had to interview for the position. And sometimes we have some people that just didn't interview well, and they could be stuck as a maintenance worker 1 for years before they could finally get an opportunity to go to that next level. We eliminated that, and the career progression now is that once you meet all the qualifications of becoming a maintenance worker 2, you will become a maintenance worker 2. When you meet the qualifications to become a 3, you will become a 3. And I remember when we first started talking about this, there were a couple questions that were asked about, what are you going to do if you have a team that has all 3s on it? I'm like, well, it better be a Super Bowl winning team then, if we have all 3s on that team. And I can tell you that we've changed the entire culture of career progression. Now when people come in, we can actually sit down with them on day 1 and show them, here's where you are. If you want to be here, here's what you need to do. And that also puts the onus on the employee that if you want to become a 2 or become a 3, get with your team leads, get with your foreman, your superintendents, and get the training you need to go to that next level. And a lot of, when we were able to implement this, there were a lot of instantaneous promotions to 2s and 3s, and that really changed the dynamic of things that we're doing. And this is a sidebar on this, but this is one of my favorite stories, and I told Brett about this because the work that Brett has done with our pay, basically taking the handcuffs off of us as directors to be able to do the things we needed to do in our departments. And I did have an employee that I would say was one of my most vocal employees with his displeasure in the environment and lack of opportunity. He is now one of my happiest employees. And he came up to me one time and said, hey, is the county going to start paying for like divorce attorneys? And I'm like, divorce attorneys, what's going on? And he said, well, we don't have anything to complain about at work. So now we're just complaining about our wives. So he said, we're going to end up divorced. So, and I thought, to me, I mean, it was a good joke, but I thought, man, what a great comment that is. You know, again, to have a person that was really disgruntled, and now they see after the number of years they've had in the county, that now they have that opportunity to grow. And I thought it was pretty funny, but anyways, anyways, I thought it was funny. I thought it was a good indicator of turning the culture around. Let's see here. Again, the vehicle equipment telematics we talked about. Now, some opportunities that we are facing. Making our telematics public facing real time for snow and ice control. And we'll be briefing you on that at probably the first part of December, based off of when we can get into the informals. We do need to brief Brett first, and then we'll get on the informal. I think the first available is going to be in December. But we will show you how that will be public facing to where people can look and see where we've plowed, where the trucks are based off of snowfall, when they can expect the truck to have to go back. The software there's going to be incredible for us for our snow removal. Integrating asset management process with countywide asset management. And this is a team that Jack's on, working close with Sunny and with facilities and there again, how do we get all of these things in a common data architecture to talk to each other, but working on that as well. And then the reimbursement for FEMA that I talked about already.
And also, yes, thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, back to that asset management. I mean, that is so much speaking my tune. I really like what it's doing. And, that it's a little bit about my being an industrial engineer, specializing in operations research. This is what gives you the data so you can assess operations to determine why is this efficient? Why is this not efficient? Why did that take 10 hours when we thought it should take 5? And the other way around, too. Why did it take 5 hours when we thought it should take 10? So that allows you to really actually just get to a more efficient kind of workflow, but one that is also realistic as far as, what the actual time is that the employees, need to do this job or that job. So that, I think there's going to be all kinds of great outcomes from that, and you're talking about some of them already. I think there's actually more than that coming with regard to that asset management tool. So I just think that that's great. And I'll just make one more point on the flood response. Thank you. Thank you to the team for getting all these roads reopened. No small feat. That was huge. That's a sign of our ability to flex and bend based on critical needs that come. And this, of course, was a natural disaster kind of thing. So I just want to say thanks for that. And by the way, the telematics also sounds really interesting. So thanks.
Commissioner Geithner.
Thank you. So I know that you know how excited I am about this real-time view of snow and ice control operations. Kevin and I talked about this, I guess it was last winter at some point, after talking to a lot of citizens and trying to help them understand, where the plow. It takes a lot of time for us to call and ask and do those things. So I'm excited about this because it is going to be a huge benefit in terms of customer service, that customers can truly just go online and take a look and find those things out. It's going to speed up the process. And I think it's also going to create some efficiencies internally because rather than having all those phone calls back and forth and trying to figure all of that out, it's going to make it easier for us to answer those questions on our side, even when customers need that support and aren't just finding it on their own. So I am so excited about this. I checked out quite a few different counties who are using this outside of our state even, and just was really impressed with how technology can be used to help keep our citizens involved, help keep them safe so they know which roads to take. I'm really looking forward to seeing that roll out. So there's a big smile on my face on this one. I think it's just truly a fantastic leap forward in how we were providing service. But I also want to talk about that reimbursement for the flood response. It's amazing to me how many of our citizens don't even know that this happened. They don't even know that we had to declare a disaster because of these rains, because so many of those roads are in the rural areas that they just don't drive, they don't see. But what truly a tremendous impact that it had on our rural residents. And so really, I think it's important that we continue to make sure citizens know what happened during that time period, and they know that we're working to fix it. So, but really excited about that snow tracking.
Thank you. As sidebar from that, these are school districts. It's going to be a great asset for our school districts when they're trying to figure out how to get kids home or where they can pick kids up, or making the call on whether or not they're going to be delayed or canceled for the day. It'll be much more data driven. So thank you for the support on that.
Commissioner Williams.
My comment is really when it comes to priority 1, 2, and 3 roads. And I know, and probably with some of the customer service things, I've lived in the city of Colorado Springs for 30 years. They have never plowed priority 3 roads, ever. And And so I think that when citizens call with complaints about their priority 3 road, asking why it hasn't been plowed yet, it could be something to point out that we do plow all of our roads, but if you're a priority 3, if you were a low road, that we may have to wait on, and you'd just have to wait a few extra days. And we also don't plow driveways. And so I've had constituents call asking when their driveway would be plowed. No, we don't plow driveways if you live in the colder areas of Black Forest. So I think that's just something interesting to point out on a customer service perspective, that we run the county on such a low cost per citizen, and yet we don't plow and we still plow those priority 3 roads during a snowstorm. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it. All right, looking into our challenges, the severe weather, which we talked about, the challenges with the floods. Another thing we're really struggling with right now is equipment build times. We've got some vehicles that have been ordered that we're not going to see until 2025 by the time they get built out. Parts availability, it's the same challenge there. Fuel material prices, I will tell you, Pete Wojcik, again, working with procurement to lock in fuel prices whenever we can and get the best deal that we can. But fuel, again, that is something that has proven to be a challenge. And you'll see that when I talk about how we used the money this year in 2023, how that affected that. Staffing challenges, they still remain, but I can tell you it's looking good. It wasn't like before where it just seemed like we just couldn't make any headway. We are making headway. We are slowly climbing towards 100%. Manning right now, and having all the people that we need. Now, we do have people that are retiring. We do have some people that are leaving either due to military assignments or people leaving for sometimes, rarely do I have somebody leave for a better opportunity. It's usually something else that's causing them to go that's we just simply have no control over. But we are climbing towards 100%, and we have less vacancies, and we're doing much better at that. And as a sidebar for that too, I do have 3 individuals right now that are completing their GED, and when they complete, we're going to have that'll be a big deal. The first one we had, he left. The one when we first opened up the opportunities for people without high school diplomas, but the 3 that we have right now are highly motivated, and they're getting after it. So I expect to see them graduated here, one hopefully by the end of the year, and the rest after the first of the year. In 2022, the allocation we had for calendar year 2022, these are the roads that we were able to accomplish with the additional funding that you authorized for us. We were able to complete 27.3 centerline miles of road with overlay, getting pavement on here. And let me see, I can't remember if it was 2022 or 2023, but we also were able to do Old Stage, get graveling on Old Stage, but I can't remember if that's in the next year or this year. I'll look at that here. But this is what we were able to do. In 2023, you can see that was reduced to 18.7 miles. But the reason for that was cost of goods, cost of materials, and then also the roads that we did here required a lot of base work that had to be done underneath the road to be able to build the road. But still 18 miles, sometimes people look and go 18 miles, well, get out and walk 18 miles. You'll see exactly how long 18 miles is. And I can tell you that our citizens that live on these roads are very appreciative. Our critical needs, getting into our critical needs. The first one here, acre facilities runoff, our control improvements of $2 million. We asked for $1.5 million last year, which we received. And what had happened is the retention pond that we have was built when the building was originally done, and it was failing, and we needed the money to rebuild the pond. As a result of a survey that we had done on the property, we found that we had, there was runoff from equipment and materials that was not getting into the pond like it needed to. And that's why we need the additional $2 million to keep us in compliance with our MS4 permit and to actually do the pond in a way that will handle the entire acres facility. I wish we would have known this last year, but it is what it is. And the survey was done this year, and that's why we're asking for the additional $2 million for that one. Let's see. Critical need number 2, Dick Circle, trash capture. I'm just going to go to the picture on this one. This is Dick Circle down south. If you can see the cursor, this is the channel right here that leads into that. One of the problems we've had down here is that right here where the water goes into this underground drainage is that there were bars put on there that were vertical. And upstream from this, we have homeless camps. We have people that throw yard debris into the channel, and it would flow down to this in that vertical area. It would collect, create a dam. The water would come out and then flood this area, come across here to Libby Court, and then end up causing a lot of problems with the homes on Libby Court as well as the homes around the area here. And what we're asking for is the $750,000 to improve this. At a previous hearing, we've already got approval to have easements on the west side and the east side for us to get in there and do maintenance. And what we're going to put in there is basically, instead of vertical bars, it's going to be angled. So when the material hits the bars, it'll actually rise and the water will continue to flow underneath, but it's also going to make it much easier for our crews to get down there and drag the trash out of there and keep the water flowing after an event occurs.
Commissioner Williams.
Can we also fence the ditch like it is up in Glen Eagle? We have a ditch that's fenced.
I don't have the answer to that question. I don't know what the cost would be to fence the ditch. I'll definitely look into it and find
Yeah,
out.
if you put a pretty high fence up around it, it becomes a lot harder to throw things over the fence. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's see, the justification here, the bottom line is it's a safety issue for our citizens is what it is. And it's also for MS4, again, the MS4 compliance to make sure that water's going where it needs to go. That's the nutshell version of this slide. Let's see here. Not sure this is going the right way here. Big circle. All right, number 3, we originally asked for $1 million, but realized we did not have enough money to support 2 projects. This project is $500,000, and this is Hampton South, which is just north of Fort Carson. And I will show you the picture here. This right here in the circle is where this area has flooding problems. And it's hard to tell in the slide, but right here where the cursor's going, that's the drainage canal that leads into this. And it's the same problem that we have here is water comes up over top of this and then floods this area. This project will require curb, gutter, culvert work, overlay, pavement to repair the problem that we have here. The other project that we could ask for, just for reference, is Calle Corvo off of Highway 115, and that requires culvert work as well. And that's just more drainage issue down there to make sure the water's going where it's supposed to go. And then number 4, the illicit discharge abatement program. This is very similar to what's over at Planning Community Development when they have a code enforcement issue with trash or anything on a piece of property. By starting with $100,000, what this allows us to do is the normal legal process can take 90 to 120 days to solve a problem. That's a long time to wait if we have something that could potentially result in an MS4 violation. We want to have the funds available is basically a recurring account that we can go into to solve the problem immediately while we go through the legal process of recovering funds. The other thing that this does is this is also a bit of a safety net for citizens who, on their property, if there's a problem, they may not have the resources available to go out and do an instant fix. We can get out and get it taken care of, and then we can work with the citizen, just like Planning Community Development does, and arrange a payback or a payment program where they can reimburse the county for the funds that we use to solve the problem. And this initiative, like I said, this $100,000, we expect this to be continuing to be reloaded. We realize there's going to be some legal issues along the way where it may be difficult to recover funds, but this at least get us started and give us the ability to solve problems as they come up, to solve the problems quicker. This is an overview of what we have right now. Our base budget is $16.3 million, and our critical requests end up with just a little over $3.3 million. In addition to that, under the road and bridge, we are asking for $10 million. It'll be used just like we did in 2022 and in this year. I do not have that road list yet for you, how we would spend that money, but in a briefing that you'll be receiving before the end of the year, you're also going to get to see the results of a project that was funded to actually get an assessment of our roads that used LIDAR, that measured the width of the roads, depth of the roads, overall assessment, again, where instead of having a subjective request on what roads need to be done, it will now purely objective based off of data that was collected. And we will use that. And once we can kind of mill through all of that information, we'll be ready when we present our roads list for 2024. We'll present it at that time that if we do receive the additional $10 million, what that money would be spent on. And that concludes the information that I have pending any questions.
Any further questions or comments for Mr. Maston? Commissioner Williams?
I just want to thank you for the excellent job you're doing. One of the points I brought out in another meeting this week was in the 2008 budget, we used to put more mills into our roads, the Highway User Trust Fund mills, and I don't know if it was maybe 2 mills. Douglas County does 4 mills. And then on the Highway User Trust Fund mill levy, those are funds that have to go, that have a share back with the city. And so whether it's the city of Colorado Springs, the town of Monument, the city of Fountain, but they also count against our Tabor limitation. So we would have to share those funds back with the municipalities and they would fit into our Tabor calculation, but we wouldn't get any value for them. And so in 2008, they cut the mill down to 0.33, which is the lowest amount you can go legally. And that's really caused us some problems. And that was one of the points I was making, and I was talking with the CDOT staff, and they said, you only have 0.33 dedicated to your roads on the Highway Users Trust Fund. And I said, yes, and that's one of the big problems we have because it takes a lot of money to pair with grants and other things. So it's been nice in these past couple of years to really see us put money into our road budget. I would still like to see at some point in the future, although I don't know when, more of a dedicated source for road funding, whether it's raising that, slowly increasing that mill levy, or maybe it's looking at starting to dedicate a portion of the sales tax towards roads. So just my comments. Thanks.
Commissioner Vanderwerf.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. With regard to critical need number 1, the $2 million construction, I just kind of want to parse it out a little bit more. You can go back to that chart 10 if you want. But we did, as it does say in the note, we provided, I think, $1.5 million in 2023. And as part of the use of those dollars, you've done a bunch of the engineering work and have now found out it actually will cost more. So the project is now a total of $3.5 million, according to the chart.
That's correct.
So how refined is that number? And what I'm really trying to figure out is, $2 million is a very round number. So what kind of fidelity do you have on that? And is that severable over a couple of years? Or is it something that once started, you've got to consume the whole $2 million because you've got to, it's about ponds or something. So is it something that has to be in a single year? Can it be severed into a couple of years? And is that number of $2 million, how realistic is that,
And I don't have the answer to the question. I don't have the spreadsheet that the engineers put together with the breakdown of what that cost is. And I don't, do you have that information? I'll get you the information. I'll get you the specifics on it as far as what the breakdown is for the cost unless.
Okay, thanks.
We cannot split the money into multiple years because we need to be able to secure the funding for this year, or I guess it'd be 2024.
Okay. So that is, so in that particular case, the $2 million being a rounded number, it's all or nothing. It's either fully
That's
fund it
correct.
or don't fund it.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I appreciate this. I like all the hard work, the information there. Good details on how we're trying to get to that next level of maintenance and operations. And I like the influx of the additional funds. That is one-time money. But this is outstanding. I think we're going to be able to do good things for our community next year with this budget. I've already mentioned it once before. I'd really like to see in 2025 a few more ongoing permanent funds for 2025. But this is outstanding and excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner Geithner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say how I know we don't have the chart in front of us today, but I'm thinking about the chart that Nikki Simmons presented to us, looking at the increased amount of funding that we have put into roads over the last several years. And I am very grateful to the great work that you're doing with that to make sure that our citizens know as we put that that money in, that it is being utilized to the very best of what it can do for us. And I'm really grateful to this board for prioritizing those roads. As I often like to say, as a commissioner who lives in the unincorporated unincorporated area, and so therefore drives on these roads. I won't say more. I don't know where you guys all drive, but I would say, every time I leave my house, I'm driving on these roads. Every time that I am driving in, and I am seeing such a huge difference in what that investment is making for our community. Some of those additional projects that were shown, those are just areas that I know our residents, and I'm hearing feedback from our residents that they are seeing that these roads are being completed. They are so pleased to drive on these nice, smooth roads, and I'm grateful to this board for the dedication of that, and look forward to seeing that this year on the budget as well.
Thank you, Commissioner. Greg, if I can just promote Matthew, it's Matthew's team that works very closely with procurement, and Nikki's team in procurement. If people knew what goes on behind the scenes to get the money and the paperwork right, to get the roads built, there's so much that goes on, and I just can't thank them enough for what they do, because it's very passionate. I will tell you that. Very, very passionate, and they get it done. And again, thank you for the support for this. We wouldn't be able to do it if you didn't support us on it.
My colleagues have said it very well. You're just doing a tremendous job in running a difficult and diverse department in terms of what you're responsible for. And it's quite impressive. In terms of the critical needs, I would say, whether it's 2 million or 3.5, to me, it's this Acres facility retention pond thing is not something that in many ways we could afford to not fund. So it's a given, and we certainly, we've done a lot of work with being able to enforce MS4 permits with other places, and to have one that we could fully control and take care of is just a no-brainer. So I hope the estimate is that we can be efficient, but I trust you and your department and procurement to just ensure that happens with the best value for the taxpayer. But I think either way, the best value for the taxpayer is for us to fix this. And I don't think there can even be a question mark around that. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you.
Okay.